Hey everyone, if you've been to this channel before, you know I love plugins that just kind of make things quick and easy because I don't want to get lost in dialing things in. That is especially true when it comes to drums because there's all those different shells and all the different microphones and you have to process them. Well, Black Salt Audio has helped us out a lot. This is Telos Drums. Hi, if it's your first time here, my name is Tim. I'm a recording and mixing engineer, and I just want to make things easier for you. Today, we're checking out Black Salt Audio's Telos Drums. This is taking all of the processes that you would normally do on drums, or that you can do on drums, and wrapping them all into one plugin. Let's dive into the DAW and check this out. Well, here it is. This is Telos Drums, and this is a default iteration. Whenever you pull it open, this is what it's going to look like. We're going to go over the controls, but if you just want to jump to the audio examples, use the chapters down below. So like we said, this is what it looks like when you first open it up. And you can see it almost looks like a lot, but all of the tools that you would generally use on your drums is baked right into here. We're going to start from the top of this plugin, and then we'll do the bottom section left to right. So up at the top, you have a preset browser. We're going to skip over that because we're just going to dial things in ourselves. But presets are up here. Underneath that is your drum selector buttons. This is so that the one plugin can have slightly different variations in sounds according to the kind of drum you're putting this on. So you have your kick drum, and that goes for your kick ins and your kick outs or your kick bus. So you can kind of just go, okay, kick drum, snare top, snare bottom, rack toms, floor toms, overheads or cymbals, and then your room mics. So there's a bunch of different processes you can do through all of those different microphones and set up on your drum kit in your session. Just make sure that whatever you're putting this on, you select the appropriate one. But sometimes maybe the wrong one is the appropriate one. Have some fun experimenting with that. But let's just keep going on from there. Underneath that, let's go with the left section. This is essentially it's your EQ section. You can see low, high, mid. That's an EQ if I've ever seen one. Then tight and smooth are also EQ moves, but they're doing a couple different things, and I'm not exactly sure what is happening in here, but you're doing exactly what it says. You're tightening things up by adjusting some of the low mids and maybe getting rid of some of the gunk that's down there. And smooth is easing out those highs. So you do have your lows and your highs, but you also have smooth to tame things and tight to kind of tighten things up. So think of it like this. Top is your boost, bottom, that's your cut. Then to the right of that, you have your dynamics section. You have a compressor built in. You have drive, which is saturation, which can sort of fall into this same dynamic processing because when you add more saturation, you're reducing dynamic range because you're bringing up harmonics. Okay, then underneath that, you have just your overall output. You can gain match from here and a built-in clipper in case you need to do any clipping on your drums. In the middle, you may have seen there is a hidden slam button, but this is just active in the room mode. And in room mode, you can turn this on. Basically, it's like a higher ratio for your compressor. You're slamming it. You may have also noticed when we switched over to room in the EQ section, you now have a low cut and a high cut. So some of this changes depending on what path you're processing on or what kind of shell or cymbal or anything. So there's minor changes here and there, but it's towards the back end. All of the shells have low and high EQs. Then when you get to the cymbals, it's a low cut. To the room, it's a high cut, low cut, and the slam becomes available. Then the last section on the right-hand side, you have a gain reduction meter, you have a clipping meter, which is really handy to have, so you can see if you're hitting the clipper or not, even when it's all the way up here at 0, because if you're getting to 0, you're now clipping. But the built-in clipper prevents anything from going over. Next to that is your overall output meter. Underneath that is your oversampling button. Just turn it on or off. There is only 8 times oversampling in here, but that'll cover you for pretty much anything. And then, of course, next to that is a phase flip button, because if for some reason you start to do this processing and maybe it's altering the phase, you can try and flip it to see if it brings back whatever you lost. Okay, now we're going to get into our audio examples. I have put a default iteration of Telos Drums on all of my drums, but we should know where we're starting. This is the balance as it is so far. So that is our drum sound as it is right now. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to hit play in the full mix that I have right now with the drums as they are. I'm going to turn on Telos Drums and dial in my drums in real time with you guys. We're just going to do the instruments right now, and I'm going to have my vocals muted, but it shows you how quickly you can dial something in. Let's do it right now. I think that was pretty quick. I feel really good about where the drums are right now. And to prove that, I've selected all of my channels and we're going to throw them all into bypass as we're doing it so we can hear what Telos Drums has done. Let's start with everything in bypass and then we'll drop it all in a couple bars in. So just dialing this in very quickly has gotten us way more punch. Our drums are cutting through. Is there a little bit of a volume bump? Yeah, maybe, I'll admit that. But I'm not against it because we've tightened things up, smoothed them out, and found room for all of these drums. It sounds like there's a volume bump. There is a tiny bit of volume bump because we are going in and we are adding some frequencies, especially in like our kicks and our snares. So we are pushing a little bit more, but we're adjusting the output to try to balance these things back into place. So we are achieving the punch. We are achieving finding rooms within our EQs, and we're compressing all within the one plugin. And it has different sounds based on the different inputs. That's what the top does. So the low frequency might shift on the snare top versus the snare bottom. Where that frequency is, that's all under the hood, and you just have to use your ears. But you can see how you can very quickly dial in your drums. So as I was experimenting with Telos Drums, I felt initially that it was geared towards a certain genre of music, generally like rock and metal, because it's coming from Black Salt Audio and they have a heavy background in heavy music. But it doesn't mean you cannot use this in other styles like hip hop, pop, jazz, really anything, because it is just essentially a channel strip plugin, but it's dialed in for drums. So mess around with it. Play around, see if it works inside your productions. It's available right now. If you want to pick up a copy for yourself, use the link down in the description. That's all for this one. Thanks to Black Salt Audio for sending over Telos Drums. This is a lot of fun to review, and I'm certainly going to be using this in some future productions. Right now, go grab it. I'll see you guys next time. Happy mixing. See you soon.